Today's practice is actually very well known in America, at least. It's very popular as mindfulness. Mindfulness is very big throughout the West, especially in the United States at present. Its roots go back to the Buddha himself. So you have the Buddha right behind me, a beautiful image of the Buddha. The Buddha himself, 2,500 years ago, gave precise instructions for mindfulness as a step towards meditative absorption. Later on, these traditions were elaborated and developed. The text that we shall take up, by the way, one important thing to know is that all of what we are doing, the ultimate purpose of all of this is awakening, is enlightenment, is God realization. It's important to note this because meditation these days is so common. It's a very big phenomenon, and it's good that it is. But it's used for multiple purposes. It's used for stress management. It's used for concentration, for focus, for multiple purposes. And one can use it for that. Those benefits are definite. They do come in our lives. But one must be aware that these techniques were originally developed by spiritual seekers as a support for their spiritual quest, as a medium, as methods for the spiritual quest. I am reminded of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who reputedly, several decades ago, when he came to New York, not very far from here, is Woodstock close by here? Yes. So he taught his technique of meditation, which came to be known as Transcendental Meditation, TM. And he told the people about its benefits. It was very popular. It continues to be popular. How it can help you to manage stress, how it can help boost your immune system, how it reduces the wrinkles on your skin and you look younger, and so on and so forth, many things. Now, the story goes that when he went back to India to visit India, some of his brother monks, because he belongs to a tradition of non-dualist monks who in the Himalayas there. So some of his brother monks, it seems, they asked him, why do you tell them these things? That's not the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is enlightenment, is moksha, liberation. So it seems he smiled and he said, I give them what they want so that they will want what I want to give them. So right now, it's a way of enticing people into it. Right now, whatever we want, and it's not false, it's true. Meditation does have those benefits. But the ultimate purpose is a very serious, very profound purpose for all of these methods, and that is spiritual awakening, realization of our true nature, freedom from suffering. That's something the Buddha and the Vijnana Bhairava and the Tantric meditation that we'll practice tomorrow and non-dualist Vedanta, all of them have in common. Overcoming suffering, a deep, lasting solution, permanent solution to the problem of suffering, attainment of fulfillment, and nothing less than that. The particular path that we shall talk about now, I'll tell you how we're going to structure this session. I'm going to describe the path. This session is a little shorter than the other session. The other sessions will be 1.5 hours. So each session will be structured as, I'll give a talk about the path, about the particular technique we're going to talk about today. I'll describe it. Then it'll be open to questions. So a few questions. I do not anticipate too many questions today because this thing we're going to talk about today is pretty direct, pretty simple actually. And then we will have a short practice. I will guide you through the practice initially. The practice will begin with the sound of the bowl here. And it will end with the sound of the bowl. So that's at the end. Today's practice, today's tradition is Buddhist mindfulness. And the texts go back centuries, millennia actually. There was a monk called Asanga in India. It starts in India and then it was later developed in Tibet. So primarily I will talk about Buddhist mindfulness from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective. So there was a Buddhist monk, Asanga, who lived around 800 years after the Buddha. So that means about 1700 years ago. And he wrote a detailed exposition of the steps, a sequence of steps for deeper and deeper mindfulness. So the method is mindfulness, and the sequence was introduced later. And his work was further developed by a great Buddhist philosopher and meditator monk called Kamalashila, who lived around 1100 years ago. So he wrote a book called Bhavana Krama in Sanskrit. Bhavana Krama. Bhavana Krama means the sequence of meditation, where it describes 10 stages of mindfulness. So what we normally practice as mindfulness in most, at least introductory levels, are basically the first and second stages, which is what we shall do today. So, but it goes on for much further and much deeper. So 10 stages. Don't look for the book. It's been translated into English, but it's pretty terse and not particularly interesting. It's pretty dry, actually, the English translation. But luckily, we have a book which expounds the method in detail. It's called The Mind Illuminated. The Mind Illuminated, John Yates. And that's become very popular in the last few years. It's a new book, Mind Illuminated, and it goes through all those 10 stages, and it's based on the Bhavana Krama of Kamalashila and the earlier work of Asanga. And so John Yates is actually a neuroscience PhD. He's been teaching neuroscience, cognitive science for a few years in Arizona State, probably. He's retired now. So he's brought his understanding of cognitive science and neuroscience into this book also. So this book is pretty balanced, but it's sometimes people are little put off by it because it's pretty encyclopedic. It's it's voluminous, but very good, very authentic. So what I'm going to talk about here is based on the first 2 stages from the Bhavana Krama, the first 2 steps. The whole thing is about paying attention to breath. That's it. Paying attention to our breathing. So the object of meditation in mindfulness meditation is paying attention to our breath. Why the breath? There's certain advantages. One is the breath is always there. Until our dying breath, the breath is always there. And second, you can be passive. You don't have to generate anything. The difference will become clear when we shall practice tomorrow's meditation. You will see the Kashmiri Shaiva Vijnana Bhairava Dharana, which we will see tomorrow, where we have to be more active than this. We'll have to be generating something ourselves. If you repeat a mantra, for example, so that you have to do it. It's not natural. It doesn't come by itself. But the breath is always there. In tomorrow's afternoon session, you will see the object of meditation, deity meditation, will be really busy. It's really elaborate and complicated and difficult. The exact opposite of what we're going to do today. So the breath is always there, and it's effortlessly there. We don't have to do anything special. In fact, we shouldn't do anything special. So it's always there. And in one sense, it's interesting. When you are still and sitting quietly, there is only one thing that is, you can consciously be aware of changing our breath. In breath, out breath. So this constant stream of change, you can see how it is appealing to a Buddhist philosopher. The impermanence of life, continuously changing. And breath itself marks the impermanence of life. I got this book recently by a doctor. It's about death. And the name of the book, it's become very popular nowadays. The name of the book is When Breath Becomes Air. When breath becomes air. When a person passes away, it's breathing at one point, and the next moment it is just air. Nothing more is there. So breathing also marks not only life, but the impermanence of life. It comes and goes, but it's also relatively stable, because it's the one thing that there is consciously, effortlessly always there. Another thing is, if you concentrate on breathing, you can actually do it anytime. Breathing is available to us anytime, anywhere. So you can see, once we learn the technique, we can do it anytime during the retreat here or at home, at any point of time, anywhere you are, you can immediately start doing it. So the breath is a good object of meditation. How do we do it? 4 stages. 4 stages. We shall go through 4 stages. 4 stages of what? Transitioning to the object of meditation. Object of meditation, breath. Remember, the importance is not in the breath itself. That's always there. The importance in the meditation is our attention to the breath, paying attention to the breath. So we transition to paying attention to the breath. Right now, where are we? Attention is scattered. We are, a lot of stimuli are coming, our attention is scattered. And we will transition in 4 stages to the meditative state of paying attention to the breath. The first stage will be, now you just listen, and then during the meditation itself, I will guide you through it. The first stage will be when first we take a posture. Every meditation, posture is important. So you have to decide a posture which is maintainable, which is sthiram, steady, and sukham, easy, relaxed, which is not painful, which does not take too much effort to maintain. Movement of the body is to be avoided, not in a rigid way. In meditation, let the body be relaxed, but not move. Think of the mind as, there's a bowl, and the bowl is full of water to the brim. Imagine how steadily you have to hold the bowl without the slightest of movement. The slightest of movement sets up ripples in the water. And a little more movement, and the water will spill. Similarly, the mind, to keep it calm, the first unavoidable, indispensable thing is a good posture. Having said that, don't be rigid about it. If there is an ache and a strain, don't fight it. The whole purpose of meditation is lost if you lose relaxation. So throughout, relaxation is to be maintained. If there is an ache or a cough or an itch, you'll see those pesky things come up when you're trying to meditate. So at that point, if you must, then adjust yourself a little. Cough a little if you have to. If sneeze is coming up very badly, then sneeze a little, but not all the time. Also be aware of not disturbing others. If you're sitting on a particularly creaky chair, we could do better to change the chair so that when you move, you don't generate sounds. It's a very silent environment here right now, so even the least sound is picked up by everybody. And I will ask you to close your eyes when it starts. Some feel like keeping their eyes slightly open. In that case, you have to look down at the floor near your feet. You can sit in the closed legs position. Some of you are already doing that. You can keep your legs on the floor, your feet on the floor. But the spine has to be straight, not rigid. It has to be straight. The waist and the spine and the head more or less in the same alignment. Hands have to be at a level, so that the body is balanced. You can put your hands on your knees, or you can put them like this, left hand below, right hand above, whichever is comfortable to you. When we start doing it, for the duration of the practice, try to not to change the posture. So the first stage will be, as we get into the posture, close our eyes, become aware of the present. Here, for example, here I am at the Garrison Institute in the meditation hall. Here I am. And the moment I close my eyes, what will happen is there will be 2 main sources of stimuli. You won't see anything. The reason we close our eyes is a great deal of our cognitive activity is concerned with visual cortex. So it consumes a lot of our cognitive processing. Eyes open means a lot of our attention is taken up to what we are seeing, and it can be very disturbing, and attention can flicker. So closing the eyes is good. And then only 2 sources of stimuli will be left. One will be sounds, another will be sensations, physical sensations, touch of the body, inside the body. So as we close our eyes, we'll listen to sounds, sensations of the body, and there'll be thoughts and feelings, ideas, memories coming up in the mind. All this, breathing also will be going on. These things will be going on. What do? Nothing. Just be present. Here I am. And note what's going on. Not like a reporter. What's going on here and I have to write a report on it. Just whatever floats into your awareness, note it. Don't follow it. If there's a sound, yes, a car. That's it. Then don't follow up where, what happened, is my car locked? Or no, don't. The mind will take you on a trip. So don't go on the trip. But note what is coming. That's why it's good to listen to sounds, feel the sensations, because if you listen to the mind, it will take, even if the mind is going to talk about the sounds and sensations, it will start a trip and you'll be out. So listen to the sounds, feel the sensations, let your mind range from sensation to sensation. Look for if there is a pleasant sensation. What do I mean by pleasant sensation? Silence, quietness, steadiness of the body, a warmth, a pleasant temperature, something like that. In that case, note the pleasantness, the happiness in that sensation. And for a moment, enjoy that happiness. Add it to your positivity right now. But also note that the happiness, the pleasant aspect of it is subjective. The actual sense contact is neutral. It might be temperature, or coolness. The agreeableness is in our minds. Note the difference between that which creates the agreeableness, the pleasantness, that which is a neutral sensation, and inside the reaction you get. Anything unpleasant, a smell, or maybe some sensation in the body, some kind of, note that. And remain present. Stage 1. Stage 2, you'll transition into an awareness of the body. That was already there, but now the focus. Be focused on from the top of the head and the face and the neck and the chest and the hands and the waist and the legs until your feet, which are on the mat or on the ground, the sensations of the body. What about the rest? Sounds and other things? The temperature or what smell in the environment, let them be there. Don't force out anything. Let them fade to the periphery. Let them fade to the background. Make an effort to keep the awareness in the body. Second stage, be aware. Bring the body to the center stage of awareness. Earlier, awareness was open. Only eyes were closed, but everything was open. Now, center stage is body. Sensations, maybe an ache, or maybe just the feeling of the seat supporting us, the ground beneath our feet, whether you're feeling cool or warm, heaviness in the tummy, very good dinner we had, so that might be there, breathing going on, any kind of stiffness, tension you find in the body, neck, head, let it go immediately. The moment you notice any kind of tension, let it go immediately. It's awareness of the body. Third stage. Notice in the body, if you're sitting still, only one thing will be obviously moving, that is the breath. So in the third stage, narrow the awareness even further. Everything else, anything that enters your awareness, it's still there, it's welcome. But don't worry about it. Narrow it still further to the breath. What do I mean? In the nose, you will feel the breath. Air coming in, going out. You may feel it around the nose on the face. You will feel it in the chest. You will feel it in the tummy. Belly expanding and contracting with the breath. So the feeling of the breath coursing through our body, entering and leaving, notice that. Most obviously, we will feel the stomach expanding and contracting. Don't force it. Don't be aggressive about the breath. Now I must breathe. Breathe in now, breathe out. Not like a sergeant major. Just whatever is going on. If it's a shallow breath, let it be a shallow breath. If it's a deep breath, let it be a deep breath. Notice the breath. All of it. From the nose to the chest to the stomach and then back again. Out and exhalation. Notice the breath. Everything else, floating to the background. Everything else floats to the background. Then the fourth stage. Bring your attention to the breath at the tip of the nose, at the nostrils, here. Just the attention. Don't look at it, just feel. It may feel like cool, the breath passing in and out. If you're wearing your mask, you may feel the mask on your cheeks and the breath passing in and out. Sensation at the nostrils. Keep it there. Other sensations will come. Bodily sensations, sounds will come. Even thoughts and feelings will come. Let them come, but let them be in the background, in the periphery. Bring your attention to the breath at the tip of the nose, at the nostrils. And remember, don't follow the breath. Breathing, the breath itself is not important. That's always been there. The whole purpose of meditation here, the mindfulness, is not to pay, not the breath itself. It's the attention paid to the breath. So the valuable thing is your attention. Keep the attention here. Now, at any point, if you lose it, the attention, and it becomes more wide angle attention, let us say, go back to the whole breath, the stomach expanding and contracting, the chest and the air in the nose coming and going, or even the presence of the whole body. Then come back again to the breath at the tip of the nose, at the nostrils. This breath, this is the fourth stage and the actual meditation. The actual meditation starts here. We have made the transition to the object of meditation. What's the object of meditation? The breath at the nose. Don't follow the breath going out of the nose. Don't follow the breath going in through the nose. Just at the nose. Sensation. Whatever it is. Little bit of air, little bit of coolness, or warmth. Sometimes when it goes in, it feels cool. When it comes out, it feels warm. Just notice that. Keep the mind there. Breathing out, breathing in. That's it. I said, that's it? Then what? I'm reminded of a cartoon. A Zen meditation the teacher is sitting, and the student is sitting next to him. And then he says, calm your mind and follow the breath. And then the teacher says, that's it. And the student looks confused. That's it, and what? Nothing. That's it. So this is the point. It may look deceptively simple. The word is deceptively simple. As we do it, we will see it's not all that simple at all. And why this is the simplest and yet a very profound entry into the nature of our awareness. We will see now. Now, as we do it, what will happen is, so this is just the introduction, the first one. Then we go on to the second stage. Second stage is nothing but what will happen. When you try to do it, let me tell you what will happen. We know what will happen. Distraction. Even the simple thing like following your breath, just at the nostril, breathing out, breathing in. Distraction. So one thing we can do is counting. So this I want to introduce, counting. So what is this counting? There are many ways of counting. I don't want to confuse you. I'll just give you one way of counting. Just by the way, as I said, these are old and complex and very profound systems of meditation, not just what we are doing now, what we'll do tomorrow in the morning and afternoon and the after tomorrow also. So I am doing what I'm going to tell you now and tomorrow and the after tomorrow are things which are preliminary, which are basic, relatively easy, but also something that I have myself practiced. To the extent that I have myself practiced and got some benefit, to that extent I'm saying. Because beyond that also we can talk about it, but that will be something I must admit I've only read about it. I have not followed it that far. So these are traditions other than our traditions. So I have investigated to a certain extent, that much only I'm sharing with you. So the counting technique which I use, I can share that with you. Very simple. It's a counting to 10. Why do you count? To stabilize your attention on the breath here. To stabilize our attention on the breath here. How do you count? As we breathe in, that's the beginning. Exhale, that's the end. Mentally say 1. When the exhalation is over, breath has gone out, you know the next breath is going to come in. mentally say 1. 1 is over. Next breath comes in, and you breathe out. Normally, don't force. Completed, 2. Third breath comes in, and goes out. Completed, 3. Fourth, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At any point, if you miss it, so who's going to miss it? It's quite possible. With 3 or 4, and suddenly mind has gone off somewhere else. And you think, was that 3 or 4? Where was I? If that happens, what you do is go back to 1. Go back to 1 again. Start all over again. Whatever it is, if you're in doubt, say 1, 2, 3. Aim to reach till 10. Make it a project that I will reach till 10 without missing. It can be quite exasperating when you are at 8 or 9 and suddenly think, was that 8 or 9? Back to 1. Complete till 10, but don't go further. Psychologists have found that even counting becomes mechanical after some time. The counting can go on and the mind can start wandering. So, up to 10. Count up to 10. After 10 is complete, congratulations. And then just keep your mind there. Keep your attention at the tip of the nose, where the breath is going in and out. Notice it going in, notice it coming out. This is the way I did it. There are others who find another way a little more useful. The other way is, instead of thinking of the beginning of the breath as inhaling, breathing out, that is, beginning is inhaling, and the end is after you've finished exhaling. That's the way I do it, and many people do it. Some people find it useful to breathe out, then breathe in, and that's complete. What's the advantage there is, see, the mind tends to wander when something is completed. So the natural completion is at the exhalation. So mind feels done, let me do something else. But if you do the reverse, exhale, finish the exhalation, that's the pause, and then you inhale at the top of the inhalation, that's 1. Then the mind will still be engaged. If you see what I mean, if you don't, no problem. That's a complicated way of doing it, but some people like that, just as an option. The simplest way is breathing in, breathing out, 1. Breathing in, breathing out, 2. Breathing in, breathing out, 3, and so on. 10, not more than 10. Just, there's a slogan, not less than 5, not more than 10. So, so that's the counting. After the 10 is over, just go on breathing. If you lose track, then what will happen? Just the next phase of it. This is the stage 2 of the mindfulness meditation. 10 stages. Stage 2 of mindfulness meditation is handling distractions. What will happen? I can predict. What will happen is this. I am following the breath. Distraction comes. Something happens. It may be outside. It may be something most probably from inside the mind. A thought, a worry, an idea. It comes. Distraction. Distraction, next stage, forgetting. I forget that I have to keep my attention here. Even for an instant, I forget. The next stage after forgetting is mind wandering. Mind wandering. Mind goes off that way. And we're out of it. It may take seconds, even minutes. Suddenly I'm awake. Oh, back to the nose. Breathing. I awake. And I'm awake. It's awakening. Treat it as joy. Yes. I'm now aware of the object of my meditation again. A little burst of joy. Be happy. It's a little awakening. After all, the name Buddha comes from Buddha, to awaken. So we are little Buddhas. When you awaken from that mind wandering into the awareness of the breath at the nose, I have to do this. So note with joy that I've awakened from mind wandering and I've come back to the breath at the nose. A little bit of joy. You're a little Buddha at that instant. And then again strengthen, generate the intention. I shall follow the breath at the nose. Following the breath at the nose. Distraction. Distraction doesn't have to come. Don't get worried. I'm not getting distracted. What happened? How will I progress to the second stage? I'm stuck at the first stage. I'm only following the breath. If you're only following the breath, you're a blessed soul. And you're on your way to becoming a Buddha. Most of us, we get distracted. Distraction will come. And then that will lead to forgetting. this is forgotten. Then mind wandering, here and there, all over the world. Then suddenly awakening. Oh, back to the nose. Remember to be happy at that point. Little smile. I will look for the little smile, those who don't have the mask. Inside your mask, you can give a little smile. That I am a little Buddha. I've awakened. Energize the intention. I shall follow the breath. Follow the breath. It's a cycle. Mind following the breath at the nose, there. Then following distraction, forgetfulness, mind wandering, awaken, joy, intention to follow, mind at the breath, at the nostrils. Yes, it's going. They have given, John Yates has given a nice slogan there. It's a good slogan to practice for all meditation sessions, not only this one. The slogan is that relax. Any problem at any stage of meditation in any class. You see, it's not just mind wandering. One can actually fall asleep. We don't know, somebody said that we don't know how tired we are. Not just physically tired, we are psychically tired. We have been engaged at this grindstone of life for years and decades and decades. There's a deep tiredness within us. So when you relax, the body falls asleep, mind also falls asleep. So you can actually fall asleep. And you can actually awaken from that. Be happy, I've awakened. And then again follow. So first, relax. Any problem you face in meditation, whether I've fallen asleep, don't fall off the chair, by the way. That can be fallen asleep, or in the mind is wandering, I'm not able to follow the breath. All of these things are happening. One way is if it's too scattered, then you can keep your eyes slightly open. Look at the floor beneath your feet. Relax first. Second, look for joy in the practice. Right here, there are many sources of peace and happiness. Just the environment, just the Buddha, the smile of Thakur Ma Swamiji there, just the quietness. Look for joy. Then observe. What's going on? Why am I not able to follow the breath? And then let it come, let it be, let it go. Any problem that is coming, an ache is coming, a worry is coming, some thought is coming, an itch is coming, a disturbing sound is coming. Let it come. Don't resist. Let it be. When I say let it be, don't focus on it. Let it be at the periphery, at the background. And when it goes, let it go. You note that it has gone. No reaction. Let it come, no problem. Let it be in the background. Let it go. So the slogan is, relax. Look for joy. Observe. Let it come, let it be, let it go. Every problem, let it come, let it be, let it go. It works for all the sessions. This is something like a slogan we can use tomorrow, day after, and throughout our meditation practices. So, all right, summing up very quickly, it may sound like a lot. Swami, is this the simplest one? It's the simplest one. It may sound like a lot, but it's not much. We'll just assume a posture. I will tell you. We will be aware of what's going on, and then we'll be aware of the body, we'll be aware of the breath, and then finally, breath at the nostrils. Try to stay there. That's all. We'll do it for about 15 minutes, but first, are there any questions to ask? This is a very simple approach. I mean, there's nothing philosophical about it. As you'll see, it'll become complicated and then enormously more complicated tomorrow and the after tomorrow. So are there any questions? First, we'll see from the virtual audience. I'll ask the moderator to ask a question, and we'll come to Bill then. First, the virtual audience. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes. There is a question from Prabir. Does the type of meditation suitable for a person depend on the person's nature?
I suppose so. Any spiritual practice in an Indian tradition, we know that various kinds of practices have been prescribed, and it depends on the nature. For some, an awareness exercise like this is suitable. For others, there must be some element of devotion. Let me tell you a funny story. There was, when we were novice monks in an ashram, there was a meditation teacher who came to teach the students. So I and some other and another monk, we went to attend the meditation session, and it was like this, that observe the body, observe the breath, and the whole thing was what's called a body scanning. That means you start with your feet, with your toes, and work your way up to the top of your head. So the teacher said, sit like this, and we sat. I was there, and the other monk was sitting next to me, who was senior to me, sitting next to me. And the teacher said, now focus on your right big toe. Right big toe. And this monk, in indignation, he got up and he stormed out, muttering, if I'm going to focus on the right big toe, why should I focus on my right big toe? I'll focus on the right big toe of the Lord. I'll focus on the feet of my Lord. Why should I think about my toe? What a waste of time. So, for him, a devotional practice. He wants, there must be deep devotion involved in it. Otherwise, just an awareness exercise seems to be a waste of time. So, yes, certainly. But the one which we are doing now, simply following the breath, is so neutral. Notice, no philosophy is involved here. No religious belief. That's why it's become so popular in the West. It doesn't ask you to believe in God or anything like that, or any kind of belief structure. Just an awareness of the breath. This is something everyone can do. Bill, ask the question. I'll repeat it back for the recording.
It seems so neutral. How does it actually lead to enlightenment?
Yes. The question is, it seems so neutral. How does it actually lead to enlightenment? Notice one thing about it, though. It may seem to be about the breath, but it's not about the breath. It's about awareness. Notice, it's fixing the awareness. The breath works like an anchor. So fixing the awareness, training the concentration, training the focus to stay. As you do that, you will see over time, in the 10 stages which are there, which can take a lifetime of practice, all sorts of things come up, dredged up from the mind, and a kind of calmness descends on the mind, a kind of clarity descends on the mind, focus comes to the mind. And the idea is the nature of things will reveal itself. It's not just the breath. You start with the breath. In a higher stages, from the breath you progress to sensations in the body, then the thoughts. Your mind is, you're aware of the thoughts rising and falling. You begin to see how many things we are not aware of, and when we become aware of them, we begin to see that we are not the body. We are not the breath. We are not even these thoughts arising and disappearing, like motes of dust in sunlight. So, clarity comes. The nature of body, breath, thought, this becomes more clear to us. Many things which we missed about ourselves, and that becomes more and more clear to us. How causality functions. There's a funny story about this, Some monks are sitting outside a monastery, Buddhist monks, and there's a flag flapping in the wind above. So one of the youngest monk says, "Look, the flag is moving." And a senior monk says, no, you don't understand. It's the wind which is moving. And the younger monk says, oh, I see. And the even more senior monk says, no, it is the mind which is moving. And the other two monks say, oh, I see, that's pretty deep. And then there is an old monk on the floor who was probably resting in his room above the three monks sitting there. He looks out of the window with annoyance and says, it's tongues which are moving. That means too much talking going on there. Now you see how you move from the gross to the subtle. The youngest monk, actually there's a lesson here. The youngest monks only saw the physical movement. The elder monks saw that there is a cause, a more subtle cause behind things. It's a whole Buddhist thing. This happening, that happens. This not happening, that does not happen. The causality, the whole of pratitya samutpada is there. And then, even deeper, is there anything external? Whatever we experience is actually within the mind. The whole of the mind-only school, the Yogacara Buddhism school comes in there. And finally, I think the old monk had it the best, that you have to get down to it and do it. The question is, how does this lead to enlightenment? The old monk would say, start doing it. You will see. Yes. One more? Yes.
So this practice, as you've laid out here, if I practice
Yes. Now, right. Goals, expectations. One is stability will increase. How much do you practice? I think they recommend around, there's specifically 21 minutes in the morning, and I'm 21, each session is 21 minutes, but let's just say 20 minutes. 20 minutes, twice a day if you do that. Over time, you will see stability. And over time, what happens is our emotions, thoughts, habitual patterns of thinking, speaking, and acting have less of a hold on us. You'll begin to see how we are reacting to things outside. So as they have a less of a hold, we will stop reacting. We'll start responding. There's a very big difference between reacting and responding. Our day-to-day life actually will improve. But the Buddhist meditator is not so much interested in all that. He's interested in the deepening of that meditation, going from the first stage to the second, to the third and fourth, as your mind stays with it. So there is, the way the ancient Buddhists described it is very nice. A monk is chasing an elephant with a monkey on it. So the elephant is the mind, and the monkey is the present nature, monkey mind, the present nature of the Swami Vivekananda also described as the monkey mind. And there are 10 stages. At first, the elephant is running ahead, and the monk is trying to get hold of it. And the elephant is at first black, then slowly becomes more and more, the blackness disappears. The darkness goes away from the mind, and the mind becomes purer and purer. At one point, the monkey disappears. In between, there's a rabbit also, which symbolizes dullness. At another point, the monkey is gone, the rabbit is gone, and the elephant is a white elephant, I mean, the sort of mythical. And finally, you will see the monk is riding on the elephant. That means the mind has come under your control. And finally, there is an enlightenment. And the 10th stage is when you are looking back again towards the world with your enlightenment, which you share. 10 stages. If you want to know what we can expect at each stage, I will refer you to that book, Mind Illuminated. It's very encyclopedic, detailed descriptions are there. Can we take one more from the audience?
Yes, question from Poonam. Can you talk about a routine or austerity one should perform to progress in the path of meditation?
Time is important. I mean, there are details. I will talk more about this on the final day. This is one of the things I want to talk about, that where do we go from here? Routine is important. The mind is a machine. The mind is a creature of habit. So if you sit for meditation at exactly the same time every day, it's much easier than to keep changing time. If you sit on the same asana, the meditation mat, in the same corner of the room at exactly the same time, over time you will see the mind gets used to meditating at that time, and it expects to be calm at that time. There are certain preparations before meditation. I will talk about that in the Monday session. All right, let us try it out for ourselves. This is a method, the more we actually do it, the more we will understand. So we will do it for a short while only. 10 minutes. Usually one should do it for 20 minutes, but today we'll do it for 10 minutes. Assume the posture which is comfortable for you. Try to keep the spine erect, the head looking forward, neither lowered nor upward. Relax. If you need to stretch your hand, crack your fingers, look this way, that way. Gently close your eyes. Session will begin now. Body relaxed. Breathing normally. Tongue in the mouth will touch the roof of the mouth, the tip touching the back of the teeth. Face relaxed, hands relaxed. Breathing normally. Stage 1, be aware. Here I am now. sounds, sensations, if thoughts and feelings arise, note them, but don't follow them. Breathing normally, relaxed, present, here, now. Become aware of the body, stage 2. The feelings of the body, pleasant and unpleasant. The support of your seat beneath you. The movement of the breath. Anywhere, any tension, let it go, let it relax. Physical tension, mental anxiety, worry, let it relax. Gradually move into awareness of the breath. Notice as you breathe in, stomach expands. Breathing out, the stomach deflates. Breath in the nose, chest, stomach. Relaxed breathing, no hurry. Gently bring attention to the tip of the nose, to the nostrils. Notice how it feels to breathe in there, how it feels breathing out there. That's it. Stay there, at the nostrils, at the tip of the nostrils. Notice the breathing in. Notice the breathing out. When you are comfortable, relaxed, breathe in and breathe out. Mentally say 1 and commence the counting up to 10. When I strike the bell, the meditation will come to an end, but don't abruptly look up. Open your eyes gently, look down at your lap, and then slowly look up. Whenever we have spiritual gatherings like this, especially in India, after a spiritual retreat, there's always a question-answer session. And in the question-answer session, there'll always be one question which will be most common. And that is, I can't meditate, my mind doesn't settle down, my mind is distracted. So that question will always be there in every Q&A session on spiritual matters. And that is the subject for today's talk, Meditate Better. It actually comes out of something that Arjuna asks Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks this very question to Krishna. The 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is about meditation, Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. And after Krishna teaches this, in pretty good detail actually, Arjuna pops this question. He says that whatever you have taught, O Krishna, I don't think it's practical. He's a practical man. He's a warrior. And he's about to be engaged in some very nasty business of war. And philosophy, no matter how subtle, spiritual sentiments, no matter how noble, techniques, no matter how sophisticated, unless they work, unless they give results, he's very American that way, very pragmatic. He is not all that interested. He says that, O Krishna, this yoga that you have taught me, I don't see it working because the mind is fickle, the mind is it is subject to continuous change, ups and downs. So he asks this question: how do you settle the mind down? Otherwise, whatever you're teaching is not practical. By the way, what did he teach? The word yoga, just a little side note here, in America and most of the Western world, and now in India also, yoga. There's no such word in English, in Sanskrit or in an Indian language. There's no yoga. It is, the original Sanskrit word is yoga. And you don't have to go that far. People will look at you weirdly if you say yoga. But the correct pronunciation would be yoga, not a. Yoga. In Hindi, you would say yog. In Bengali, yog. But never yoga. So what is this yoga the spiritual path? Yoga is a spiritual path. What exactly did Krishna teach Arjuna? Before we dive into the subject, it's good to get some perspective of what Krishna was teaching. And this is, of course, I'm speaking entirely from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. Krishna was not teaching the yoga of devotion to Arjuna. You see, these schools, meditation, devotion, of action, the ancient schools of Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, these are not Vedanta, these are not Advaita. In fact, these are what are called Purva Paksha for Advaita. A lot of effort is spent by the Advaita masters in cutting down the conclusions of these schools. The Nyaya school, it teaches devotion and surrender to God. That is not Advaita. Somebody trained in Indian philosophy might object at this point and say, where do you get that from the ancient school of Nyaya? We know the metaphysics and logic of Nyaya. Well, it is a devotional school because if you see the later
dualistic Vedanta schools, Dvaita Vedanta, Shuddha Vedanta, and others, which are devotional. If you open up the box and see how the workings inside, the machinery inside, the metaphysics and logic, they're all entirely borrowed from Nyaya. See, the dualistic schools, the theistic schools are basically the metaphysics and logic of Nyaya, Vaisheshika, with an overlay of theism, of devotion. So the Nyaya Vaisheshika school, which says God exists, and ultimately by surrender to God, by devotion to God, you will attain freedom. Not Advaita. We do not agree. The ancient school of yoga, by which I mean Patanjali yoga, it says that by the restraint of the modifications of the mind, hold the mind back, tie down the mind, so that by the calmness of the mind, absolute cessation of the movements of the mind, the separation of the self from material nature, you will see that in asampragyata samadhi, the deepest possible samadhi. See, what's wrong with that? Not Advaita Vedanta. No. Brahma Sutras, Shankaracharya clearly explains, etena yoga pratyuktaha. By these arguments are set aside the ancient school of yoga taught by Patanjali. Don't be disturbed by all this I'm saying. I'm going to take it all back very soon. But right now, let's see. Even Sankhya, the ancient school of Sankhya, which seems closest to Advaita Vedanta, what does it say? This vast world which you see, the material world, a mass of change, it's an object. And you are the witness thereof. You are pure consciousness, without limit. And you are unchanging. And this entire world is a material world, an object, and apart from you. Consciousness and matter are different. Purusha and Prakriti are different. This distinction, this discernment is the key to your liberation. Self, not self. I often talk about drigdrishya viveka, the discernment, the separation of the seer from the seen. You say, yeah, that seems like Advaita Vedanta. No, it isn't. Advaita Vedanta, in fact, they spend more time in cutting down the school of Sankhya rather than any other school. Because in some sense, it is the closest to Advaita. It's not Sankhya. It is not Purva Mimamsa. Advaita Vedanta is entirely based on the Vedas, on the Upanishadic portion of the Vedas. And yet, the previous portion of the Vedas, the ritualistic portion, where you perform good actions in this world and devout actions, and by the merit gained by these actions, we hope to gain a good life in this world and in the next world and in the next birth. Purva Mimamsa, the way of sacred action. Not Advaita. None of these are Advaita. These are what constitute the Purva Paksha, the opponent, those schools which are different from Advaita in their ultimate conclusions. And Advaita Vedanta sets them aside firmly. Then what is it? What is the yoga taught by Krishna to Arjuna? What does it say then? What is Advaita? And just before the question asked by Arjuna, Krishna had taught the climax of this path he is teaching Arjuna. And he says, Sarva bhutastham atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. You see, the self in all beings, in everything in the world you see yourself. And all things in this world, the entire universe, you see in yourself. You in everything else and everything else in you. And the one who is centered in yoga, the one who is established in yoga, sees this same radiant divinity everywhere. Sarvatra samadarshana. Not as a sentiment that everything is God. No. Sees. Ikshate, sees. Sees with the eye of wisdom. Not with these eyes. These eyes reveal difference. You are all different from me. Different from each other. You are all sentient beings, and you're sitting on the chair, which is different from you. And sentient, insentient. And there are millions of entities around the world. The differences are revealed by these eyes. The eye of wisdom, the eye of non-dual wisdom, reveals one radiant divinity as a matter of, I can say, roughly experience. This is deeper than experience. As Sri Ramakrishna said to The young Naren, Vivekananda, who came to him, do you see God? And he says, yes, as I see you, only more clearly. What is that only more clearly? Does Sri Ramakrishna need glasses? No. By the eye of wisdom, you see something deeper, which makes all experience possible. You see, consciousness, it is more evident than anything revealed by consciousness, if that makes sense. You are that awareness which makes possible the entire the experience of what you call life. And that awareness, that being, that presence by which everything is possible, that is more evident, more direct, let us say, than everything else. That's what I mean. So you see that same radiance, same divinity everywhere, this oneness of existence. Vivekananda called it the divinity within and the oneness of all existence. This is the teaching. This is the yoga. This is Advaita Vedanta, which Krishna is teaching Arjuna. This is the core message. Not the restraint of the mind. Not that there is a separate divinity which has to be worshipped and appeased and loved and surrendered to. Not that you have to engage in ceaseless actions to generate good karma and go from life to life and birth to birth and death to death. No. Not even the separation of the witness consciousness from the external world. Not even that. Not Nyaya, Vaisheshika, not Sankhya, not Yoga, not Purva Mimamsa, but Advaita Vedanta. This is the yoga which Krishna teaches Arjuna. Now let me take it all back, whatever I've said just now. Because all this can be shocking and disturbing. Swami, this is all that we are trying to do in our lives. And you're saying this is not the teaching of Vedanta. That's what we have been trying to do for so many years. All of it is there. You say if it's not the teaching of Krishna to Arjuna, but clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches devotion. Krishna teaches meditation. Krishna teaches the discernment of the self and the not self. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. All of that is taught. Krishna teaches a moral and ethical life above all. All of those are helpful, are indeed essential as the foundation for the Advaitic insight of the one divinity everywhere. These are the components in a grand structure built up by Krishna pointing to the divinity, that one radiant divinity everywhere, the oneness of all existence. Without these, that insight is not possible. These are preparatory, these are preliminary, these are foundational. One must have an ethical life. Without that enlightenment, spirituality is not possible without morality. One must have meditation. Without the calmness of mind, this will not work. One must, of course, discern the witness consciousness from everything else. Unless you disentangle, we disentangle consciousness in our own understanding from all that it is mixed up with. Unless we do that, nothing else will work. That one divinity everywhere will remain like a slogan, will remain rhetoric, will remain a nice sentiment. So all of it, karma, bhakti, yoga, by yoga I mean meditation, Raja Yoga, all the yogas are all part of the path shown by Krishna. They are all components of the structure, the technology being built up by Krishna, but the teaching is to see the same divinity everywhere, in all beings, living and non-living. That which is within is also outside. That which you discover with eyes closed in the deepest meditation is also what you see, exactly what you see, with eyes open and engaged with the world. That which you see in the waking world here, the same reality which shines forth in your world of dreams. The same reality which shines forth but unmanifest in the world of deep sleep. In the physical, in the subtle, in the causal, all are appearances of the same underlying reality. Vivekananda put it very well. He said, one only exists. It appears as nature and soul. Nature means universe, soul, you. But it's one. There's one underlying reality. Meister Eckhart's beautiful, not Eckhart Tolle, Meister Eckhart, 500 years ago. His wonderful statement, the ground of my soul and the ground of God are the same ground. It's the same meaning as that thou art, tat tvamasi. So that is the yoga that is being taught by Krishna. Arjuna at this point would have given a dry smile and would have said, thank you for the philosophy lecture, but I'm still not convinced. It doesn't work. That's my my objection. It's all wonderful, as wonderful sentiment, the oneness of all existence. It is wonderful philosophy. Fine. It doesn't work. Why not? He says, chanchalatvat stiting stiram, because of the wavering, the fickle, the restless nature of the mind. My problem is not with your philosophy of, let it be devotion, let it be non-duality, let it be Sankhya, whatever it is. Duality, non-duality, devotion, knowledge. But the mind is the problem. Arjuna is very practical. He narrows it down to the problematic component in this whole scheme. The mind is the problem. What is the problem with the mind? Listen, Arjuna has understood this whole teaching because he uses a key word. Krishna, this yoga you have taught. Samyena Madhusudana. O Krishna, O Madhusudana. The yoga you have taught as Samyena, the one same vision of divinity everywhere. So he has understood what is being taught here. He did not say, "O Krishna, the meditation you taught as being the calmness of the mind or the cessation of the modifications of the mind," like Patanjali said. He didn't say that. He didn't say, "Oh, the yoga you have taught as devotion to you, the Supreme Lord." No, he didn't say that. He says the vision of oneness everywhere, which you are teaching. Great, but doesn't work. Why? The mind is fickle. So he points to the core problem here. Why is the mind fickle? What is the problem with the mind? Could you explain a little further? And Arjuna does that in the next verse. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramathi balavadridham etasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva sudushkaram. What does that mean? The mind is fickle, restless, O Krishna, turbulent, and strong, and set in its ways. Trying to control the mind is like as difficult as trying to control the wind. Notice what he has said. Each of these terms he uses has a certain meaning. He's describing the problem. One is it's fickle. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions, a continuous flow going through the mind, what we call stream of consciousness. In Vedanta, he will immediately object and say consciousness is not a stream, the mind is a stream. Consciousness is the underlying reality, the witness of that. But it is understood. Continuous modifications running through the mind, one after another after another. The mind is like this restless monkey. It's been compared to a monkey, which is restless by nature. Then somebody has made it drink wine. And then a scorpion has stung it. So imagine how the monkey is jumping around from exactly like the mind. Restless. But restless in itself need not be such a problem. I'll give you a nice example. Suppose you visit somebody's house in New York, the little apartments, everybody has a dog. And it might be a cute dog, running around restless, shooting around here and there, and your host says, "I'm sorry, the dog is so restless." You say, "No, it's cute. I like watching it play. Let it run around, let it play. It's nature. And it's fun to watch." But if it's restless, maybe fun, maybe cute. But then your host tells you, that's not the only problem. It's turbulent. Turbulent means problematic. It chews the socks and the slippers, and it knocks over furniture, and it smashes cups and plates and glasses. So it's turbulent, pramadhi. It's not so easy. It's not as cute as it looks. Well, why don't you restrain it? Or maybe you can't restrain it. It's very strong. It's not a Pomeranian or a Shih Tzu or something. It's a pit bull or a Rottweiler. You can't restrain. Maybe it's so strong and so aggressive. You might have to call animal control or 911, call the cops. It's so strong. Balavad. It's powerful. It's the moment you try to restrain the mind in meditation, you see how powerful it is. In the Sermon on the Mount, in the Bible, Jesus Christ says that blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Somebody asks not to Jesus Christ, but somebody asked later on that, how do you know that? How do I know whether I'm pure in heart or not? And he says, one way, Swami Prabhavanandaji writes in his book, Sermon on the Mount according to Vedanta. He says, one way, sit down and try to meditate. Try to think of God. Try to pray, try to think of God. For the next 2 minutes, I will think of God and nothing else. Try to do that. Very soon you will find in 20 seconds, in 30 seconds, other thoughts will start arising in the mind. It will bubble up. The very fact that I cannot hold on to one thought for any length of time, for a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, it shows that the mind has impurities. It is restless. It keeps on generating. What is the nature of these impurities? We'll see later. So, it is strong. It cannot be controlled. Even if you want to control it, cannot be controlled. Well, maybe it will settle down. Maybe its attention will be diverted. Maybe it will become nice later on. No. He says, it is dridham. It is set in its ways. The mind runs in patterns. And those patterns are not easily changed. Unless you work at it, it will remain the same. It will trouble you. It will trouble you continuously. In fact, if you take an extreme example, that of mental illness, it might be easier to understand our condition. Not that we are all mentally ill, but a little bit all of us are. So, if you take the case of people who are actually suffering from mental illness, they'll always tell you, I understand the mind is an object, I am the witness of that, but when the storm arises in the mind, it's impossible to control, and also it's impossible to remain at peace. I understand with all the Vedanta and Sankhya and the witnessing and the mindfulness meditation, all of that is fine. But when the mind kicks up a storm, difficult to remain the witness and difficult not to suffer. Some people have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. They cannot help doing a set pattern of activities again and again and again. Even after knowing that this is something set in my brain, in my behavior patterns, I am the unconcerned witness, I am the vast blue sky in which these clouds are floating past. Fine, still disturbing. So it is set in its path, in its ways, very difficult to control. Hence, your teaching, I understand the philosophy, but it does not become practical. It does not solve my problems because the mind is playing truant in between. What do I do with this? He has already taught meditation. That meditation is failing to control the mind. So what is Krishna's answer? And here we must pay attention. Why we must pay attention? A wonderful old Swami long before my time, Swami Bhaskar-Ishwarananda, who established our ashram in Nagpur in India. I met some senior Swamijis who were trained by this wonderful old Swami. And it seems his classes, his Vedanta classes were amazing. Each of them was a spiritual experience. You sit there and your mind is immediately elevated. He was such a wonderful teacher. He was an enlightened soul, obviously. Once, somebody complained, I think, to Swami Shankarananda, probably, if I remember the story. It was very old times, 1950s. Oh, the level of spirituality in our monasteries is going down. We don't find the same level of spirituality as it was during the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Some senior monk complained. And the president of the order said, why are you saying that? Go to Nagpur where Swami Bhaskar-Ishwanji, that Swami, they used to call him Viprodash Maharaj. When he gives a class, I find the whole ashram vibrating spiritually. So this Swami would teach. Now why am I bringing him here is that I had access to some of the notes taken down during his teachings. And just one example will show you how unique his approach was. So here he is telling young novices, monastic novices, brahmacharis, how to study the Gita. And he says, remember who is teaching. Sri Krishna is teaching. Not a pandit, not a scholar, a professor, not even an ordinary monk, not even an enlightened being. It is the incarnation of God who is teaching. And he has been asked this question, which is uppermost in our minds. Let us hear what God has to say to us. That kind of value we must give to the words of Sri Krishna. Again, he would say, whenever you study the Gita, and that is true for any spiritual text, keep your prayojanam vibrating within you all the time. The Sanskrit word prayojanam means your need, your purpose. Why am I here? What am I going to gain out of this? What do I want out of it? I have come here with a purpose. If you keep that vibrating in your mind, I have come here to go beyond sorrow. I have come here to attain enlightenment, God realization. Then imagine the reverence, the focus with which we will take the teachings. So he would teach in this way. And when you study a text, you do it like this. So let us listen to Krishna that way. Who is teaching? Sri Krishna. What is our prayojanam, our need, our goal here? And nothing short of enlightenment. What does he say? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Blessed Lord said, Ashamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu kaunteya Vairagyena cha grihyate. First, he agrees entirely with Arjuna. He says, no doubt you're right. The mind is very difficult to control. So that gives us some peace of mind. So it's not a small problem. The Lord agrees. It is a problem. It is something that is a major problem. The mind is difficult to control. But then he uses the word Mahabaho, oh mighty armed one, indicating to Arjuna, you have defeated so many enemies in your time. Now you are surrendering before your own mind, without a fight. I'm reminded of about 16 years ago, I was in the high Himalayas, and we used to go to this wonderful old monk, a traditional monk, who living at that time in an ashram, small ashram, but he spent most of his time in a cave in the high mountains, and he could point out the cave actually from the ashram. A little higher up in the mountain, he could see there was the cave. And this old monk, he was a Punjabi, he was in his 80s at that time, complete non-dualist, so a man after my own heart. So I used to go and study the Ashtavakra Gita, which is a text of radical non-dualism with him. And there were a motley group of monks who would sit around him, monks and yogis and who knows. We were an odd bunch. Some dressed like me, some with beards and long hair, some with shaven heads, some stayed in huts, some stayed in caves, one at least I know stayed in a hole in the ground. So we would gather around him and we would study this text of non-dual Vedanta. And this monk, he was quite a character. He has passed in the last few years, I think. Yeah, I know he has passed. He was quite a character. He used to say, oh monks, I have committed only one sin in my life. You say, what? It is to start this ashram. Starting this ashram was my only sin. I was fine in that cave. And then we would say, of course not, we are getting so much benefit from this, because you are here in this ashram. Anyway, so once he was teaching the Ashtavakra Gita, he closed the book and he looked at us sort of in a pensive mood. And he said, you have weapons in your hand and the enemy comes and gives you a couple of slaps and you come back weeping. Where is the fun in that, O monks? In Hindi, हाथ में शस्त्र हैं, अस्त्र शस्त्र हैं और दुश्मन से दो थप्पड़ खा के रोते रोते वापस आ गए, क्या मजा है महात्मा जी. So what is the fun in that, O monks? What are the weapons? These are the weapons. This understanding, this philosophy, these techniques which are being taught in these are the weapons. What is the enemy? The enemy is the mind. The mind which is uncontrolled. The mind which is stopping you from realizing God. And you're giving up. You're coming back weeping, it's no good. I can't do it. So there is a way of controlling the mind. It has to be learned. Notice a very simple thing. For everything else in the world, we know it has to be learned. And we know it takes time and effort and capacity. You go to enroll in Columbia University for a mathematics or physics degree. The moment you enroll, the next day you don't say, where is my degree? Why haven't I got it yet? I have to give up. It's no good. You don't say that. You know you're going to spend years and years and work hard, attend classes, turn in assignments, go through exams, and finally write thesis and finally get your degree. And that's not the end of the road. There are higher degrees to be attained. You start a business, invest in Wall Street, and why aren't I a millionaire yet? Nobody says that. That's ridiculous. So in spiritual life, we do that, I've started meditating. I have been initiated. I've got the mantra. I've started meditating. But the mind is fickle. Doesn't calm down. So it's no good. No, it takes time. This is the subtlest of all tasks and the greatest of all adventures. So it will take time. It will take effort. And every bit of it is worth it. In the end, success is guaranteed. You are the Atman. You will realize it. What can stop you? And once having started this, what could be better than this? This is the highest endeavor in life. This should become the central task of our life. Everything else will be there. This is the central task of our life. And moment to moment, you get benefits from it. Just sitting down in meditation, sometimes I say to people who express frustration at not being able to progress in spiritual life, I say, give it up. When I say senior monks would take this approach and say, all right, fine, it doesn't work, give it up. Stop coming to the ashram, stop meditating, stop reading sacred texts or lives of the saints, stop listening to devotional music. No, I can't do that. You can't do that, which means there's something there that you like, something there that you're getting some benefit from, some peace of mind, some strength from, already. Most people, when they stop and think, yes, I'm not an enlightened being like the Buddha or Vivekananda, but whatever I've got is already valuable to me. This is what makes you turn up on a Sunday morning, on a cold Sunday morning in Manhattan. So, it is worth learning. It is worth taking the time to do this, not getting impatient about it. We had to learn everything. Everything that civilization gives us is not given directly by nature. Every word that we read, every letter that we read had to be taught to us by our primary school kindergarten teachers. To eat properly, to get up and walk on our feet, that had to be taught by our parents. At least we had to be helped along by our parents. So all of that has to be taught. And Brahma Vidya, enlightenment about Brahman, doesn't it have to be learned? Of course it has to be learned. Of course it will take time. But it takes less time than one might imagine. So what is the advice that Krishna gives? Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. He says, the first thing is, abhyasa, literally it can be translated as practice, but literally it means repetition. Abhyasa means repetition. What's so great about that? I thought he would give us his guard. He should give us some more glamorous, profound technique. All he's saying, repeat. Do it again, and do it once more. Is that all? Now, there is something very important to learn here. There's a very ancient saying in Indian philosophy. Sankhya samam jnanam nasti, yoga samam balam nasti. There is no knowledge like Sankhya, and there is no power like yoga. What does Sankhya mean here? The knowledge of the self. Who am I? What am I? That knowledge is the greatest of all knowledge, because that really takes us beyond samsara, settles all our needs, takes us beyond suffering. That's the knowledge. But there's something else added to that. Yoga here means this practice which develops the mind and enables us to live that knowledge, enables us to manifest that knowledge, act upon it in our day-to-day life, respond to the ups and downs of life from that knowledge. Otherwise, what happens is we might feel, I know, but it's a kind of intellectual knowledge. It doesn't help me to face the problems of life. When somebody says something nasty to me, I know it's one undivided divinity, but still it hurts. So that power, inability to manifest or live that knowledge in day-to-day life, that inability comes from the lack of that power. And that power is built up by yoga. All right. What is the essential nature of one word, of that knowledge? And what is the essential nature of this yoga, this power? The essential nature of that knowledge is insight, enlightenment. It is a breakthrough. It is a clear paradigm shift. It's a clear before and after. One sees the world in an entirely new way. It's not so much that one sees new things, but one sees the same things in new ways, with new eyes. You see, to see old things with new eyes. I'm quoting Ulysses here. To set sail in new lands and new things. But after all those adventures in the high seas and foreign lands, to come back once again, to see old things with new eyes. Old things, old people, the same places with new eyes. That's wisdom. So this is a new, complete paradigm shift. I thought this was a fractured world of people and places, time and space, limited lives, birth and aging and death. Now I see there is clearly this one underlying divinity, this in all beings, and all beings are in that. And that divinity is beyond sorrow, beyond old age and disease and death. And that is the oneness, the reality of this entire universe, in which the entire universe is an appearance, like a movie on a screen, like reflections in water. And I am that limitless radiance, that divinity. So this is the nature of the shift. It actually happens. It's not as difficult as one might think. One is blessed when that happens. But it's the nature of an insight, of a breakthrough. And for that there is a whole process in Vedanta. Fine. But that's a different topic. Now our topic today is the second one. It is, what is the essence of yoga? If the essence of Sankhya, of knowledge, is that insight, that breakthrough, that paradigm shift. What is the essence of yoga? One word: repetition. Repetition. Training. The difference between these two, let me tell you. Swami Sarvapriyananda ji. Some of you have seen him, and some of you see him on YouTube. He's a senior monk of our order. He was the vice chancellor of our university in India. So he told us this anecdote about when he became a monk. After 10 years of being a novice, you are initiated into the vows of sannyasa. The president of the order, the head of the order, gives us the vows of monasticism. So during his time, which was when he became a monk, was early 80s. Long time ago, 40 years now, huh? So after that night when you're conferred early in the morning, just at sunrise you're conferred. Whole night there's a ceremony, and then you're conferred the vows of monasticism. Next morning, the newly minted monks can go to the guru, the president of the order, and if they have any questions, they can ask. We did that too, and in his time, they also did that. So they went. At that time, the president of the order was Swami Gambhirananda ji. He was the 11th president of our order. Extraordinary Swami. I mean, his literary output is amazing. The translations of the Upanishads which we use, and I've seen it being used across the world. Translations of the commentaries of Shankara, of Madhusudana on the Bhagavad Gita. 2 years back I was at Harvard. It was his book which was being used, Gambhirananda's book. But he was a person who was very grave. In fact, his name, Gambhirananda, means who delights in graveness. So he was never actually known to smile. If you look at his picture, he's the most unsmiling picture. Very inward. And you sit with eyes closed. So these newly minted monks went, and their spokesperson was none other than our Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, and he asked, so the Swami was sitting there and he said, "Any questions?" The Sarvapriyananda ji said, "We, the brothers, we want to know that this Mahavakya, this statement which we received from you last night, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So how many times should we repeat it?" Because that's what we know. A mantra is to be repeated. You get a mantra from a guru, it's to be repeated. Swami Gambhirananda ji answered, "It is not for repetition, it is for realization." Any other question? No? You can go. But it's a very important, very profound point. The difference between jnana and yoga. Jnana, knowledge, enlightenment. You have to realize I am Brahman. Not repeat it, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. You can do that, but that's not the point. Whereas there are mantras which are for repetition. Suppose your guru tells you to repeat the mantra of Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya. So what do you do with that? You repeat it 1,000 times in the morning, 1,000 times in the evening, 10,000 times a day. Somebody asked the Holy Mother herself. She said, people keep asking me, I have no peace of mind. I have taken the mantra initiation, but I have no peace of mind yet. And she says, they won't do anything and they keep on complaining. And let them repeat the mantra 10,000 times a day. Then I'll see where there is no peace of mind. Let me see. So repetition. Mananat trayate, definition of mantra. That by which you dwell on it, it saves you. It takes you across samsara. The power of a mantra comes from repetition. But a mahavakya like aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, tat tvamasi, that thou art, that comes from the enlightenment, that comes from the awakening into that reality. And both are necessary. From an Advaitic perspective, of course, the highest thing is the realization, I am Brahman, but the other part of it, as I said, all the other components, meditation, devotion, moral life, all go towards establishing a foundation. With a restless mind, with an impure mind, with a selfish attitude, one cannot become I am Brahman. No, won't work. Such a person, even if they work hard at Vedanta and trying to understand, you know what will happen at the end? They will say, I got it. I've read all the books. I understand all the arguments. But it's sort of, if they're honest, they'll say it's sort of intellectual, speculative. It's some idea that I've got. It's a cool philosophy I've learned. I'm still the same person. So the ability to manifest this knowledge, it comes from the repetition. Jonathan Haidt, who is right here, he's a psychologist in the Stern School of Business here. I was seeing his biography. He is recognized as one of the 25 most influential psychologists today in the world. So his masterpiece, long ago he wrote this book, The Happiness Hypothesis. I read it long ago. I was very impressed. There he makes a very important point. He asks the question, why is it so difficult to change? We have so much knowledge now. And if you go to Barnes and Noble, he mentions that all these self-help books, personality development, all these self-help books, go to Barnes and Nobles, you will see racks and racks full of self-help books. How to develop a great personality, how to communicate more effectively, how to impress people, how to lose weight, what else? How to meditate better, what we are talking about today. All these things and many more things are all there. And people go and buy whole loads of them. But he asked the question, do they deliver? Are our lives significantly changed? Almost always the answer is no. All it changes is our bank balance. It changes, goes down a little bit, and we run out of racks to put books in. So it keeps on increasing and overflowing. But really, are we changing? Are we developing all those wonderful capacities talked about in those self-help books? And by the way, the self-help books, some of them are little way out there, but many of them are pretty reasonable. They're pretty good, actually. They are not lying to you. Some of it is anecdotal, but increasingly with the development of positive psychology, it's pretty rigorous academics also now. When Dale Carnegie and others wrote, it was anecdotal, inspirational. But now it's a matter of academic psychology. So it's not wrong. But why doesn't it work? Jonathan Haidt asked that question. Why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it change our lives? Why is it so difficult to change? He says it's because what it does not address is the structure of the mind. Our mind has the structure. He uses a very beautiful Indian analogy. He says it's like a elephant with a mahout. You understand what a mahout is? The one who sits on the top of the elephant and controls the elephant. So elephant with a mahout. The mahout is the intellect. And the intellect, the mahout knows where to go and can tell the elephant where to go. And just like the intellect, it understands. But the problem with that is as long as the elephant obeys, it's fine. But if the elephant does not obey, the mouth wants to go this way and then there. But the elephant wants to go this way and then there. Then there's nothing that the mouth can do to the elephant because the elephant is much, much stronger than the mouth. If the elephant wants to go there and raid a shop and eat the bananas there, or attack a banana plant or something and eat the bananas there, the mouth can't do anything. Because the elephant is much more stronger physically. It's just like that, our intellect, which buys we buy all those books from Barnes and Nobles and listen to TED Talks, and then we decide, these are great ideas. I am going to revolutionize my life. I have taken the Tony Robbins seminar. I don't know how many $100 it is, several $100, I think. I'm going to revolutionize my life. And by the way, I'm not criticizing any of that. All of that is right. They're correct. They're not lying to you. But it doesn't work. Why? Because I am sold on it. But who's the I who loves these ideas, who's inspired by them, who has this wow moment? It's the intellect. But underneath the intellect is the lower mind, the emotions, and the more than the emotions, the set patterns of a lifetime, of many lifetimes. And then there is the body, the physiology. I realize one of the keys to success and happiness in life is getting up early in the morning. I have to rise with the sun. Monks in the Himalayas are very clear about these things. They have sayings like, the one who does not greet the rising sun, knowledge of Brahman will not rise in his life. You sleep. There are funny stories like, oh, I get up with the first ray of sunlight in my room. Oh, really? That's pretty good. So when do you get up? 5 o'clock or 5:30? He says, no, my room faces the west. Not that way. I'm determined to get up early in the morning. Early in the morning, I get up, I have the alarm rings, I wake up. But then what happens? It's cold. It's so comfy under the blanket. And I want to get up, but then the body says, I didn't sign up for this. You, the intellect, you thought it was a great idea. Did you ask me? You go and get up and do your meditation and yoga. I'm going to sleep inside the blanket. Can the intellect do anything by itself? No. It cannot force the body also. It gives in. And that's why every kind of practice which leads to difficulties, it comes from our lower nature, which has not signed up for that, which does not respond to knowledge and insights and lectures and seminars and books and philosophy. No. What does the elephant respond to? What does the mahout do for the elephant? It trains the elephant. The mouth doesn't persuade the elephant. The mouth doesn't give a TED talk to the elephant. The mouth doesn't sign up the elephant for a Tony Robbins seminar. No. Doesn't send it to HR programs. No. It trains the elephant. And training is mostly systematic repetition. The body-mind responds to repetition. So repetition, abhyasa. Somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna the same question. My mind doesn't settle down. Sri Ramakrishna seemed startled. He said, Sheki, abhyas yog karo. What are you saying? Why don't you practice the yoga of abhyasa? There's nothing more than the yoga of repetition. So, repetition, regular meditation, it will work. Over time, it is learned and it clearly changes the nature of the mind. You will see it becoming more obedient, more subdued, it begins to flow. A new pattern is set. A time comes when it becomes natural. Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. He lived on the bank of the Ganges, the Ganga river, and you see these little boats plying, and you would see how the boatman would take a long bamboo pole and work hard at pushing the boat away from the bank into the midstream. But once it reaches the midstream and catches the current, he says the boatman would sit down, just hold on the rudder, and would take out like a hubble bubble and smoke tobacco and merrily sail along on the current. But until it catches the current, he has to work hard to push the boat into it. So the current of spiritual life means when it becomes natural to us. When the mind is now set in the new pattern. Then you don't have to work so hard all the time. But initially, yes. That is abhyasa. It will work. But not by itself. Here is another part of it. Vairagyena grihyate. The mind comes under control by vairagya. Vairagya means dispassion. And I must stress this. You see, it is a problem, a symptom of our secular, rather materialistic age, where here in the United States, for example, meditation is quite popular, but the dispassion side of it is never taught. The dispassion for worldliness, going beyond worldly desires, that is essential to meditation. That part is not emphasized at all. Perhaps it's not popular, perhaps it's not palatable. All sorts of meditation techniques have been popularized. Mindfulness is very big now. But notice, whether it's mindfulness, vipassana, whether it's Tibetan Buddhist meditation techniques, whether it is yoga, kundalini yoga, non-dualistic meditation, whatever kind of meditation, if you look back upon the origins of all of them, they came from the high spiritual traditions, all of which emphasized a dispassion for worldliness, a detachment from the world. Not just Buddhism or Advaita Vedanta. Every religion does that, if you're honest about it. Maybe not the modern versions of those religions, but if you go back to the original texts, absolutely. What teaches more dispassion than the New Testament, the Gospel of Jesus? Dispassion for the world. So, dispassion, it's called vairagyam. Viraga. Raga means likes and dislikes. Raga, dvesha, both are meant. Likes and dislikes, they color the mind. Any kind of strong pull towards the world, that is raga. I was amazed to read Freud, the wise old atheist, but he's pretty wise. I remember many years ago, it was nearly 20 years ago, in our teacher training college, teacher education college in India, near our monastery, where school teachers were trained. So there was a department of psychology, educational psychology. And we had pictures of Freud and Jung and other well-known, John Dewey, our American father of modern American education, William James and others. So Freud has this little beard like this. Now, in that room, we had the annual Saraswati Puja, the worship of the Divine Mother Saraswati, a goddess of learning. So the image was there. And people from the locality would come and bow down to the image. So this little old lady comes to bow down to the image of Saraswati. And there are these pictures of the psychologists. She's standing before Freud like this. And I went, and she asked me, I was walking past her. I'll tell you in Bengali and translate. She said, Baba, ye kon rishi? My boy, who, I was a young novice, he said, which rishi, which sage is this? She would have been shocked at what Freud taught, but it's true. He is a rishi in a certain way. The people who have deep insights into human nature are rishis. So, his insight. When you talk about Freud talking about libido, we think about the baser passions of human nature. But look at the definition of libido. He says any movement of the subject to the object is libido. Any movement from here to outside, anything outside, is a manifestation of that same energy. This is raga, which will not allow you to remain centered. It can start as a mild attraction, something nice and pleasant. It can develop into a desire, I want it. It can go into the level of an obsession and addiction. It will not allow you to remain centered. Raga. Swami Ashokanandaji, in a very nice essay, he say about monks. He says, when are you ready to renounce the world? When can you become a monk? He says something interesting. He says that if you stay in the midst of the world and people and objects of the senses, of things of the world, your mind may be attracted, disturbed by that. But if you stay away from them, in a monastery, in an ashram, in a retreat, then your mind is at peace. You don't hanker about it, you don't think about those things at all. Then you are ready to be a monk. If you stay away from the world and things and you stay in an ashram and yet think about those things, then you're not ready to be a monk. It'll fail. It won't work. And those whose minds are steady and serene in the midst of the world and in an ashram, they don't need any monasticism. They're above it already. There are very few. But there are such people. There are very few such people. So you have to be in that middle category. The same thing is true of meditation. When can you meditate effectively? It is when the raga, the attractions, the pulls of the world, the things of the world don't continuously pull your mind outwards. If you sit quietly in a meditation hall, in your little personal chapel or shrine, in a holy place, quietly sit there. If your mind is more or less stable, more or less, it may be restless, but more or less, then you can meditate. If it's continuously pulled out, you cannot. There is raga, the things of the world which pull us, the obsessions, the attractions, the thing that this is nice, I must have this. And equally true, the dvesha, the repulsions. It is a whole range, just as raga is a range. There are different kinds of raga. I want more and more money and property, and that is greed. I want pleasures of the senses, from eating good food to all kinds of sense pleasures. That is kama. There are various kinds of raga, attraction for the world. Dvesha, repulsion for the world, for people and things. It can be a whole range. It can be a minor irritation, a minor dislike, to a general dislike of a place, a person, a food, an activity, a job, all of these. But general, a clear dislike. I don't like this. You might say, what's wrong with that? It is based on a false notion of the world. If it is true that it is the one divinity underlying everything, you can see the good and the bad, but underlying you must have serenity, because ultimately it's the one divinity. Notice, when you are watching a movie, you root for the success of the hero, you hate the villain, and yet at the same time you're serene, because you know there's no hero and villain there. It's fiction. It's an appearance of one reality. A couple of years back at Harvard, a divinity student said, I don't like your Vedanta philosophy. It tells me that Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler are the same. How can Adolf Hitler and Mother Teresa be the same? I said, it doesn't. First of all, it doesn't tell you that Adolf Hitler and Mother Teresa are the same. It doesn't. It is much better to be a saint than to be a monster. But consider, are they really all that different? When they were little babies, 2 or 3 years old, was Mother Teresa? Mother Teresa was Adolf Hitler? Adolf Hitler? No. Every night when they fall asleep, deep sleep, even the personalities are erased for the time being. That being who's in deep sleep at that moment, is this being evil and this being good, saintly? No. There is a layer in which goodness and badness are there. The layer is the mind, the personality. If you take the mind and personality to be the ultimate reality, then yes, this is ultimately a saint, that's ultimately a monster. But no, that's not the ultimate reality. Anything that has developed over time, that is conditioned by causes and effects, that is subject to change, cannot be the ultimate reality. Neither saintliness nor monsterliness or monstrosity. They are the ultimate reality. But yes, at that level they are not the same. You have to move from adharma to dharma and beyond that. From evil to morality and ethics and rise to spirituality. So they are not equivalent. But beyond that, the reality lies beyond all of these. That's what Advaita Vedanta says. So dvesha also disturbs the mind. Some people make a habit of enmity, of dislike of others, and holding on to anger and resentment. You cannot meditate if it's like that. And it's unwise. I'm quite sure your indignation is justified. I'm quite sure people have treated you badly. But it is unwise to cultivate these fires. When you set a fire, you burn your own house before you burn somebody else. What is resentment? What is anger? It is here. I am the person who is resentful of others who may have misbehaved with you, mistreated you. Quite correct. But first I make myself unhappy. So that kind of mind cannot meditate. Raga and Dvesha, neither can meditate. Sri Ramakrishna told the story of the boatmen who were rowing a boat. The three, not boatmen, they were three friends who were drunkards. At night they stumbled around and they wanted to go home across the river. They found a boat, jumped into it and started rowing. As the day broke early morning, they found they were still in the same place, rowing hard. All night long they rowed. What happened? They'd forgotten to untie the boat. That forgetting to untie the boat, that is raga and dvesha. Vairagya, dispassion for the world, is untying the boat. It's letting go. Doesn't mean that you won't do your duties in the world, you won't take care of people. You will. You will. But your motto will be neither seek nor avoid. Seeking and avoiding comes from raga and dvesha, attraction and repulsion. Neither seek nor avoid as far as the world is concerned. Why? Because there is some higher thing that you are about to do. You are on the journey to enlightenment, self-realization, God realization, whatever you call it. So vairagya is important. Complete dispassion for the world and its events. At this point, let me just give some practical points. So far I have said what Krishna said. Meditation is possible if you have a regular program of repetition, abhyasa, and dispassion for the world. Untie your boat. Don't be like those drunkards. Untie your boat. Before that, just one more point. When they say that all this giving up the world, sitting quietly, meditating, it's repression and it can lead to mental instability. It does sometimes. Why does that happen? It's because vairagya is not there. When does it lead to mental problems? That firmly cutting away the world, sitting quietly and meditating, trying to meditate for long hours. It's only when there is a strong outward movement and I'm denying that and I'm shutting it down and trying to hold it down within myself, then it leads to a reaction in the mind. My tendency is to want things and chase after things and to achieve things in the world. I'm stopping myself from doing that in the name of spirituality, and that leads to a revolt in the mind. Krishna has already said that. In the Gita, he says, Mithyachara sauchyate. The one who sits withdrawing from action, sitting quietly in a meditative posture, closing the eyes, shutting out the contact with the world, and thinking of the world in the mind. That one, he says, Mithyachara sauchyate. That one is called a hypocrite.